This is Brian Road, Mythic MTG Tech. I'm doing a really quick deck tech here. I'm getting ready to head out to some of the M14 releases, but I've got a Modern Masters deck that I played about a week and a half ago over at Pheniox Comics in Capitol Hill here, and I was really happy with the deck. I was a little bit unhappy with my play. I kind of blew round one and ended up with a draw there, but I crushed in the next two rounds. The minor play mistake that I made, though, is definitely something you can learn from, especially when drafting Modern Masters. My opponent had out two Thalids or two Fungus on the board, and I thought I knew one of the cards. I thought I remembered it, but I didn't pick it up and read it, and it had an ability that let him give his team +1/+1, and I gave up two burn spells. And the thing that you got to remember from this is, if you have any doubt whatsoever what a card says, pick it up and read it. And if you're not 100% sure what the card says at that point, get a judge. And what I mean here is this is also very, very important in Legacy, especially, because cards don't say what they say. The meaning of the card is often very different. So if you're running into a card for the first time and you've got any questions over it, get that judge and get it solved early, because it can cost you a game. And what this did is this cost me game two, where I had game one. I made a minor mistake in game two, and we ran out of time for game three, even though I had a dominant position there. So would have been a draw there. I conceded the draw to give the other, or I conceded the game to give the other person a better chance at prizes, and then went on to crush my next two. So let's move on to the deck tech. This is a Modern Masters 3-pack draft, and I love it. So first thing here, I got Bone Splitter. Bone Splitter is just amazing. The amount of damage this guy can do is incredible. If you're playing the aggro deck at all, I definitely recommend having at least one, and in rare cases, maybe even two. Next, Figure of Destiny. This was a third pick. It was passed over to me. I love this guy. Wonderful aggro card. Really, really strong card for your quick, fast decks. We've got here the Rift Elemental. Works really well with Suspend. You can often get a few extra damage in with him. I like picking him up kind of mid. He doesn't need to be a first or second pick. You really need the Suspend cards to make him amazing. We got Face Vulture here, which is just incredible in the Goblin deck. Now you're seeing that I'm in the red-black Goblin deck. Oh, we've got Giant Growth here. I mean Brute Force. Wonderful card. +3/+3. Great combat trick. Fury Charm. Now this guy was definitely an MVP for me, and as you'll see later, I've got one or two things at the higher end of my curve, and when you're playing against Salad, which people seem to think that Thalids is the absolute best deck, and if everybody's drafting at the table, it's not a great deck, but it can really gum up your aggro decks. You need a way to get in, and this card's got Trample. Definitely recommend it. So Mog War Marshal, really nice card, puts out 2/1/1s, puts some pressure on really early, and remember, with that Bone Splitter, those are going to be 3/1s. Desperate Ritual. Now, I was kind of divided on main deck in this, although it does speed you up. It moves you up in the curve, and it's arcane, and as you'll see, I've got some cards to splice onto it. So it has the utility of jumping you up in the curve, although you're missing a little bit of card advantage at that point. But it can also come back and be extremely useful, especially if you have any of the Storm cards. Now, the Stinger here is just wonderful. Bounces something back to your opponent's hand. You can use this really well on tokens. It also works really well against Suspend cards. I recommend having a few of these in your aggro decks. I got another War Marshal there. Now, Sudden Shock, just extremely important. It is one of the better 2 damage spells. The fact that your opponent can't deal with it with some of their cute little combat tricks is wonderful. Glacial Ray. I love this card. I picked it up extremely early. I wasn't sure if I was going to be in the red aggro deck, or if I was going to go for the Storm deck, or if I was going to be in the red-blue arcane deck. And this card is just wonderful. It's very flexible. It's very, very splashable. I even like this better than Sudden Shock. Another Stinger there. Now, I picked this up really late, 3rd pack. This is only good if you're in the Goblin deck, but it does add some really nice support to Goblins. Next here we've got Countryside Crusher. I've got a lot of friends who don't like this card. I love this card if you're in the aggro deck. Even if you stick yourself at 3 or 4 land for the rest of the game, if you've got a lower curve, that's all you need, and you're drawing good stuff for the rest of the game. It cannot be undervalued how good it is to get a wonderful card every single turn. Now, this little goblin here, he's only a 2/2 for 3, but he makes the Storm deck work. And as you'll see, I've got a Storm deck sub-theme in here. So I got a pair of him, really like him, empty the Warrens. This card is wonderful. You top deck this a little bit later, maybe you've got some combat tricks in hand, you attack, the combat tricks on both sides come out, and then you dump a bunch of these on the field. Now, I've got the 2 Grinning Ignises in here, so I can actually get a really nice storm count as early as turn 4, and as you see, I've got 2 of them. It's just wonderful. Now, this guy is in here just as filler. I needed a last card at the kind of top of the curve, and haste is not bad at all, especially if you're maybe casting it early off of a ritual. Now, this guy also is at the top of the curve. He's often got haste for me, given the number of goblins that are in graveyards, and seeing that I have some more useful goblins, including some that I might not have paid Echo on, this guy is just amazing. And as you'll see, my curve does go up a little bit higher, but these last 2 are suspend, so you don't count them in when doing the mana. A 4/4 flyer that basically has haste when coming off suspend is wonderful, especially if you can get rid of some of those counters early. And last is Greater Gargadon. People really underestimate this card. I got this as a 3rd pick. This is an extremely splashable, extremely powerful card. And when you pair it with Trample, you're going to get through a lot of damage. You'll end games, even if they were able to stop the game early. We've got some Vivids here, which I think are wonderful. Had 3 Vivids. The last thing that I've got here, though, is 3 cards that I didn't end up playing, and I think they're somewhat instructive overall. Number 1 is the Kitchen Finks was my pick 1, pack 1, amazing card, but by pick number 4, I noticed that I had not seen a single good playable card. There were at least 3 people fighting for green, and the person to my left was clearly in white. So even though I got this amazing card, you need to change colors when your colors are being cut off. Festering Goblin here is a sideboard card that I picked up. He's -1/-1, and very useful in the particular deck that we were playing here. Not very good in other decks, but if you've got the goblins to support him, he can often be a 2-for-1, clearing the way and getting through some extra damage. The last one here is Etched Oracle. I'm just mentioning this because I got this as about a 13th pick. Went all the way around the board. The affinity deck was clearly not open. It was either somebody playing blue-white or somebody playing the 5-color. Even in just the blue-white affinity deck, this card is amazing. 1 or 2 Vivids, and you can get the extra colors up there, a little bit of land cycling, and then this is the powerhouse that puts you over the top. I've won several games with this. Do not underestimate this card. Pick it up early if you're in those archetypes. Thanks. This has been Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech. Enjoy your M14 release weekend, and let me know how that went.